We are live. Okay, so I think it's incredibly fascinating when I come across data finding associations between magnesium and vitamin D. And to be honest, I was a little skeptical of this association. I've heard many people over the years say, well, you need to take vitamin D with magnesium. And that to me seemed a little bit counterintuitive because magnesium, of course, is water soluble and vitamin D is fat soluble. But I came across this really interesting paper that I want to share with you, highlighting the mechanisms interconnecting the ways in which vitamin D and magnesium can be correlated. And so I wanted to just sort of hop on here and talk with you a little bit more about this, and also talk about some of the foods that, are enriched in magnesium, where we get these certain foods, and take it from there. And of course, answer any questions that you have on magnesium and vitamin D. But yeah, let's get into this association here. I think this is really interesting stuff. I want to pull up this diagram here, and we'll kind of zoom in and move this around as we get going. So as you know, when you're exposed to the sun, the UVB synthesis can cause the induction of the synthesis of pre-vitamin D. And this vitamin D binding to the vitamin D protein, it turns out, is contingent upon magnesium. And then as we move on to the liver, you see here, magnesium is also involved as a cofactor in an enzyme called 25-hydroxylase that helps to convert the vitamin D to 25-hydroxy vitamin D. And so that to me is interesting. So it seems that in two steps of the cutaneous synthesis of vitamin D, magnesium plays important roles there. And so going on down here, when we look at the kidneys as well and the other synthesis pathways of vitamin D, we see magnesium participating there as well. So to me, this is really an intriguing mechanism highlighting how vitamin D is linked with magnesium health. And the challenge here is a lot of folks are deficient in both magnesium and vitamin D. And so that's why I wanted to share this with you, because we obviously have a problem here where many people are wearing sunscreen, they're not getting sun exposure, they're not outside, and so there's a lot of vitamin D insufficiency as well as magnesium deficiency. So let's dive into it. And friends, if you're enjoying the content you're here now, let me know by hitting that like button. That goes a long way. We're a little bit later than we normally do this. We'd like to do this around 5 or a little bit later, but I just wanted to kind of share this information with you. And also dive into female health and how magnesium is really an important cofactor for various aspects of women's health throughout all stages of life. And it turns out that magnesium plays an important role in various aspects of female physiology. And there's this association with fat cell challenges in adiposity and magnesium insufficiency. So we are going to explore all of that. We have a quiet group tonight, but that's okay. We're still going to rock and roll and be consistent with this. So let's get into some of this research now, shall we? Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit smaller because you don't need to see the big version of me. I'm going to move this over here, and we're going to dive into this study. Now, I thought this was a particularly interesting study. This was published in 2013, highlighting the connection between magnesium, vitamin D, and body composition. So I think this is really interesting. This study found that there was a strong statistical association between both magnesium deficiency as well as vitamin D deficiency. And so here we have conclusions. Our preliminary findings indicated it is possible that magnesium intake alone or its connection with vitamin D may contribute to vitamin D status. The associations between serum 25-hydroxyvitamin D and risk of mortality may be modified by the intake level of magnesium. Future studies are pending. And this particular report highlights the mechanistic connections between vitamin D and magnesium that we were alluding to earlier, which, and again, I think this is just so fascinating how The magnesium is involved in the binding to the vitamin D binding protein, how magnesium is involved here with the 25-hydroxylase enzyme and beyond. And it gets even more nuanced in the kidneys because the kidneys, it turns out, are a key synthetic organ for vitamin D. We have folks here from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Guy is on. Michael is with us. Really appreciate your likes and your comments, your shares, my friends. That's how we let other folks know that we are live. So appreciate your hearts and your comments. Let's continue on and talk about what this paper found and its association with body composition. I think this is particularly important. And I did just want to highlight this paper too. We're going to be talking about this in a little bit more depth later. And this is a comprehensive review about how magnesium impacts all sorts of different conditions and ailments. And I think really important to address. Let me just move this out. Sorry. But any magnesium questions are fair game, my friends. And it turns out I need to correct myself. I've been saying that magnesium is a cofactor for 350 enzymatic reactions. It's closer to 600. So magnesium is a cofactor for 600 enzymatic reactions. Okay, we got folks from Washington, D.C. I was just out there with my daughter a couple weeks ago. D.C. Was great. It was hot and humid. We have Michael in the house from Iowa. Appreciate you all being here. Okay, so the recommendations, this is important. So when it comes to magnesium recommendations, this is the RDA for men and women. It's actually quite high. I think folks are going to be surprised by this. For men between the ages of 19 and 51, you should be aiming for around 400 milligrams of magnesium. Women between 310 and 320 milligrams of magnesium, and a little bit more during pregnancy and lactation. So it turns out that in your entire body, you have roughly 24 to 30 grams of magnesium in your bone. You obviously have magnesium as well, and you excrete it in the urine. But what I think is quite interesting is some of this data here, and this is related to magnesium levels in foods. Now, I'm actually quite surprised here with some of these different foods. I'll make this bigger and we can just kind of look at this together. How about that? So magnesium content in selected foods. So it turns out that almonds is a decent source of magnesium. Pine nuts, really good source. Cashews, an excellent source of magnesium. And of course we have the whole grains. Now, it's important to recognize that soil health is going to influence the magnesium content of the food. So we do have wheat. Now, I would wager that sprouted and fermented wheat would have more magnesium per 100 grams compared to unsprouted, unfermented wheat. It seems that chocolate is also a really good source of magnesium. Dairy, not so much. Seafood, not so much. So for those of you on a carnivore diet, you probably want to supplement with magnesium because you're not getting a whole lot from your food. Now, why would you consider magnesium, whether it's supplementation or just eating more from your diet? Well, it turns out that magnesium is really important for metabolic health. It modulates insulin sensitivity. Magnesium affects hormonal fluctuations, especially in women. So around the luteal phase of the cycle, women should take more magnesium. Magnesium obviously impacts bone and bone mineralization and is very essential for the integrity of muscle maintenance and the function of muscles, and its deficiency is linked with muscle loss. So I think that's particularly intriguing. But what is most exciting for me is magnesium in the brain. So it turns out that magnesium helps regulate neurotransmitters and mood. It's involved in neuromuscular balance, so preventing falls and that. It's involved in PMS-like symptoms, menstrual migraines, and dysmenorrhea. So magnesium seems that it's really, really important and has some gender-specific effects at different ages. So it turns out that women may benefit from magnesium supplementation as they approach perimenopause and menopause. So estrogen enhances magnesium absorption and retention. So therefore, around perimenopause and menopause, where estrogen levels decline, there can be a dearth of the absorption of magnesium. So peri and postmenopausal women, you want to pay attention to magnesium. In men, the absorption seems to be relatively stable, but of course, testosterone levels and testosterone deficiency can influence magnesium balance. So I think this is really important. So for women, magnesium seems to be particularly important around pregnancy, lactation, and postmenopausally. Physically active men should obviously consider magnesium. If you go in the sauna or you sweat, that's important as well. Now, it turns out that low magnesium levels are linked with increased visceral adiposity and belly fat, altered body composition, and inflammation. So I think that's important. In both men and women, higher visceral fat accumulation show there's an inverse association between magnesium levels and waist circumference. So pretty important stuff, if you ask me. Okay, so let's get to some questions. We got a lot of folks that are on now. What type of magnesium exactly? Now, this is where my bias can come in, because as many of you may know, we started our own manufacturing facility, and are particularly excited about that because there's 6,000 supplement brands, maybe 100 manufacturers, and I was just sick and tired of all the contract manufacturers and stuff like that. So in my opinion, one of the best magnesiums is this particular magnesium. Of course, you know, my bias. I have a conflict of interest here. But that being said, I mean, these are some of the best magnesiums. The magnesium threonate, malate, and acetyltaurinate. And so this is a really unique formulation that I think is particularly interesting, and also as well as the optimized magnesium, which is going to be featured over here. And so what makes this particularly unique is you have the magnesium acetyltaurate along with malate and glycinate. And so you know, because we are a manufacturing facility, you know, we have access to all the different raw materials. And I will just say that the glycinate and the acetyltaurinate are some of the best magnesium forms you can get. I like the malate for folks that go in the sauna and exercise. The dimagnesium malate is good for the muscles. I like the threonate as well for the brain, paired with the taurinate. So those are the forms that I suggest. So thank you for that great question. What's the timing to take magnesium? First of all, Opinion P says, I like magnesium L-threonate. Magnesium L-threonate is great. Also, magnesium taurinate is good as well. So they should be paired together, in my opinion. This is the new kid on the block, the what's known as ATA mag. I would like you all to start paying attention to this. Of course, I do not get paid by this company, but we order their raw material in our facility. And so this is a relatively new magnesium for the brain. I think it has as much or more impressive research than the magnesium L-threonate. So it's magnesium acetyltaurinate. So it's magnesium taurate bound and the taurate is acetylated so it can get into the brain better. And so this is a unique compound. It's made in Belgium. It has some of the best bioavailability of any magnesium. It's been shown to cross the blood-brain barrier, and there's some decent research for women. And so I just think this is impressive. The magnesium L-threonate, also known as Magtine, has of course been around for a long time. A lot of folks like that, but over at Myoscience, we paired them together. So we have the ATA mag paired with L-threonate, which to the best of my knowledge, no one else is doing that. Now, when do you take magnesium? Well, it depends on how much you're taking. You know, if you're not getting any almonds, cashews, or pine nuts like we talked about, if you're not having any grains, well, you may want to consider taking magnesium twice a day, possibly 150 milligrams in the morning and like 200 milligrams at night. Because as we have been discussing, you know, the recommended daily intake for magnesium is in the 400 milligram type per day range. Gosh, where did this go? It was this paper right here, and there was other papers showing the recommended daily allowance for magnesium, because magnesium, of course, does a lot of things, as we've sort of been talking about for those of you just getting on here, particularly for women, for body composition. Obviously, really important stuff there, but also in the brain, as we've been alluding to. So magnesium regulates neurotransmitters and mood and neuromuscular balance. And as I mentioned, the ATA mag is really quite special for the brain. Again, this is not a company that's paying for any videos. Full disclosure, we order their raw material from Belgium, but this is a new magnesium that you want to put on your radar, ATA Mag. And I'm just really proud at Milestones. We're pairing ATA Mag with magnesium L-threonate. No one has done that. So I think this particular magnesium is really cool. There's a lot of companies that are kind of cutting corners and they're selling magnesium taurate, but they're not using the branded material. That's magnesium acetyl taurate. So great question. Timing is good. Nighttime is good. What size are the supplements that we showed? Jay says, I just got magnesium malate for my weightlifting sessions. That's awesome. Swamp Hawk is in the house. What is up? Joe says, bodybuilders are taking 3 to 4 grams of elemental magnesium. Damn, that's a lot. You're going to be on a can all day. That's wild. Tada has been taking magnesium for several years together. That's awesome. Okay. Opinion P says, Mike, what size are those magnesium supplements that you showed? Yeah, let's kind of review that. Yeah, I'm not here to totally promote. So these are capsules. This is a 90 count and we're coming out with a 240 count. This is just really affordable. Magnesium glycinate, magnesium malate, and magnesium acetyl taurate. So there's that. And then, one of my favorites here is the Brain Mag that features the glycinate, the acetyltaurinate, along with the, Magtine so here's the label so you guys can see this. Like I said, there's 6,000 supplement brands, maybe 100 manufacturers. No one's doing this together. So you have the threonate, taurinate, specifically acetyltaurinate and bisglycinate chelate. So this is a powder, and we have a cherry flavor launching very, very soon. So this is unflavored, and then you also have the capsules. So the capsules are a little bit more affordable for some folks, but yeah. So there's that. It's also on Amazon, if you're interested. But whatever company that you like to work with, just make sure that they're using the actual branded material. Okay. Is it okay to take magnesium with zinc? Absolutely. Yeah, that's totally fine. In fact, encouraged. I would recommend that. So folks, what do you think about all this magnesium stuff? I think it's incredibly fascinating. There's just so much research and connection between vitamin D and vitamin D binding protein and magnesium and all the rest. As we were alluding to and starting off with this conversation, magnesium affects the vitamin D binding protein. It also affects the 25-hydroxylase enzyme in the liver, as well as in the kidney. And so this is incredibly fascinating, to me. And so I wanted to come on here and share this with you and further dive into this a little bit. But I will take more questions. About 7 years ago, magnesium helped balance my heart arrhythmias. It took a while, but now I'm a firm believer. Magnesium is one of the best things you can take. Thank you, Mike. I love that. What form and what dose did you use to experience improvements? That's super, super cool. Friends, how was this? If you enjoyed this short show, hit that like button. Thank you for sharing and spreading the love. Appreciate you all being here. Is Monday a good day to do these still? If it is, let me know in the comment section. We're having amazing weather here in Washington, so I'm going to go do a sunset paddle on Lake Washington. So super grateful that you all tuned in live. Hopefully you got some value from this conversation, and we'll catch you all later. All right. Have a good one. Bye now.